Thank you all so much for coming. My name is Kim Hunt Harris. This is Caprock Writers and Illustrators Association, temporarily new location at the Mayhem Library. We are, I'm so excited to have the distinguished Darynda Jones here. She has generously brought books to give away, free books, which is awesome. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate y'all's flexibility, coming to a different place, a different location. Next month we should be back in the Garden and Arts Center, but this month they've got something going on there today. It's kind of a big deal. You might have seen it. There's stuff all over the, tents and booths and everything all over. So the Mayhem Library has generously let us use this space for this month only. I have a few things to go over. First of all, I want to say that this meeting today is sponsored by KJ Waters. For those of you who don't know, we offer sponsorship opportunities, so you can sponsor a meeting. It's $11, right? Is that right?
$11?
$12.
I don't know if I can afford that.
$12.
It's 12.
It's
Yeah.
$12.
It's $12.
Yeah.
And that is to pay for our monthly Zoom premium membership. So if you would like to sponsor a meeting, there is an opportunity on Caprock Writers' website. It's on the contact button, am I right? Click the contact and then it's on that page.
I think it's under sponsorship.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's
caprockwriters.com.
under contact.
And you will have an opportunity then to get up here in the meeting and talk about anything that you have, a new book release, for instance. Katja's got a new book coming out, and so she's going to get an opportunity to talk about that right now. So take it away.
I printed out
Okay,
these
Jay.
cable flyers to talk about.
KJ, you're not on camera.
I'm not on camera. Okay. First of all, I have a few things to talk about, but I'll do my little sponsorship.
Yeah.
Okay. I just need a chair. Okay.
I'll grab one of these.
Okay. So my brand new book is coming out. It's the third book in my series. I just got the proofs yesterday, so I'm so excited to be able to show you all. It is called Killing Time. Here's my proof copy. Oh, look at that gorgeous cover. I'll pass it around if anyone wants to look at it. It's the third book in my time travel series. The first book is Stealing Time, and it's time travel wrapped in a hurricane. My main character moves to Florida, and 3 days later, a hurricane hits, Hurricane Charlie, and that actually happened to me. And so there was 4 major hurricanes that hit within 6 weeks, and I happened to live through all of them and didn't really have any major damage, but I turned it into a series. So each book is one of the storms that hits. She goes back to different places, and this book, Ronnie Andrews goes back to 1872 Texas, and she runs into Jesse and Frank James under assumed identities. They are hiding out from the Missouri law, and they actually were in Texas. They were in Sterling City, Texas. She might know because she writes mysteries. So I thought that was really cool to be able to, my other stories were all in other parts like London and early America. I wanted to bring it to Texas because I'm in Texas.
Oh, good.
I have, it releases on September 27th, and I just published the paperback today. So if you would take one of these. The other thing is my first book in the series is free on Amazon. Next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 23rd, 24th. So on the back of that little flyer is my free book.
Ooh.
Come on, you can start here's the other 2 books. This is the first book that's free, and then I have Shattering Time is the second book.
Oh.
Hurricane Francis, which was the size of Texas. I'm going to give you Texas. Okay, so that's my little sponsorship. I hope you guys check it out. It's a pretty good, tell them how you also design. Oh yeah, I design the book covers. I am an author consultant as well, and I do book covers, and I do all kinds of other things. Some people in this room might be my clients, but I'm not necessarily. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to tell you all about is the Lubbock Book Festival, and that's coming up September 25th. Come on in. There's chairs over there. You can sit in any of those right near the table there. September 25th and 26th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. It's right here in the library. And we have 10 panels of amazing authors. Linda Brody is one of them. She's on a romance panel. Tom Nichols is on he is on the crime mystery and suspense panel. We have a lot of really amazing authors that will be in the panels, and then we have 40 authors that are local authors that will be around. And on top of that, we have writing workshops, and Grace Blair is also doing one of the workshops. She's doing one on Sunday that is the 5 senses. Kim is passing out the writing workshops. We have some amazing people coming to teach. Mike Cox is writing a book called 7 Million Words. He's doing a course, a writing workshop on that, how he's managed to write that many words. We have all kinds of great programs. You check them out. They're all throughout the thing. And I would like to see how many people in this room are authors who have a table during the book festival. Raise your hand if you're one of those authors.
Not what?
If you have a table, an author table?
Oh, yeah, I have an
that's
author
it.
table. Yeah.
Yeah, so some of us in the room will be there. Caprock Writers and Illustrators is partnering with the Lubbock Library and with Literacy of Lubbock, which is housed right here. And so all of us together have put together this amazing thing. We also have some music groups that will be there. Carrie Banks from the Maines Brothers Band, he has written a book, and he will be there on one of the panels, the Lubbock local panel. And he's also playing music for the panel. We have Kathy Jewell, who's a country music artist. She's won Country Music of the Year and a whole bunch of other awards. She will be here, and that same Lubbock Legends panel. And she'll be playing both Saturday and Sunday. So Sunday's a little more focused on children's activities, so we'll have a lot more. S.J. Dahlstrom is there that day at one of the panels, and he is bringing his horse. Not in the library, but he won't be up here. And he's a YA author. We have A.G. Howard will be here. She is a pretty big name author. She's also in the young adult panel. Karen McKay. We have lots of folks. So I hope you all come out and check that out. And it should be a really fun time. Does anyone have any questions about that? I know I'm talking really fast because I'm
No, what I wanted to say is I want to thank you, KJ, for making this happen for us indie authors.
Yes.
I mean, this is an amazing event that hasn't taken place in a long time in the Mahan Library, where this literary festival has been mostly people that were not indie authors.
Yes.
And so this is really a big deal.
Yes.
And we really thank you.
I mean, the library should a lot of us just love a lot of work. But
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and I know that we all appreciate it. We tried to make it a lot more local friendly because we have a great community of authors, and that's what Caprock's all about, is try to bring us all together and lift us all up. So, enough of me blabbing. I'm going to pass it over to Jan.
Can I say something real quick before? We are looking for volunteers for the book festival. And I have a little sign-up sheet. We need people to work our Caprock Writers table, just man the table and pass out flyers about the group and maybe sell our anthology, things like that. And so we have like 2 hours just for that. We also need people to, for the writing workshops, make sure that the presenters, make sure they have everything they need. It should be simple, but like if there's something that goes wrong, you need to be a person who will go get help or something like that, or point people towards the bathroom and things like that. And so it should be low stress things, but we would really, really love for you to sign up. So I printed off the little sign up sheet. It's also online. If you would like to take a shift, I would love to have you. I would really, really appreciate it.
I filled one out and I'm glad to be
I
around.
did. You were the first one.
Yeah.
And Susan was the second. We need more.
I have known Darynda Jones long before she was a New York Times and USA best-selling author. I knew her as a colleague at Clovis Community College. She was the best professor of sign language. She developed the program there. It was the most successful program. And she taught there. I was lucky enough to even get to visit one of her classes, and I thought every class should be this fun and this much learning going on. You were amazing.
Thank you.
She could tell you that she cannot remember a time when she wasn't writing. Even when she was 5 years old and she couldn't write, she would scribble on a notepad and give it to her mother and say, "Read my masterpiece." And her mother would play along. She must have been pretty creative to do that too. So. And then when when she could write, when she was 7 years old, she was writing plays for the old neighborhood and telling stories to her brother while he would play with his cars, you know. And then she fell in love with Captain Kirk, she said. And all of these raging 7-year-old hormones.
Yes.
They were bad stories for her Barbie and Ken dolls, which I can imagine what those were like, because she has some really good sex scenes. In high school, she used to sit for hours at the time for, I guess it was Tasty Freeze over there in the Palace at that time, but hours, all day long writing. And then after she graduated, well, real life came in, and you put writing aside. She got married to a local rock star, and she had 2 sons that she can think of. I'm getting this from your website. Yes. Her oldest son is born deaf. This is how I knew her as a sign language person, but she took her kids when the oldest one was 5, I guess, when you went to Albuquerque. Got him enrolled in a deaf and hard of hearing program, and she went back to school at the same time at UNM, where she took sign language and graduated summa cum laude in sign language. She came back afterwards and taught and developed the program at Clovis Community College and interpreted just about everywhere. We didn't have enough interpreters in that area, and I think you even had to be your son's interpreter when he was in high school.
For 3.5 years.
Wow. I remember reading that story in the paper thinking, wow, that would have been an interesting experience with your son to do this. But finally, I think when your son graduated, that's when you got back to writing really seriously, 2002. And her whole goal was then to get a publishing contract. And with really developing her manuscripts, she worked at them. I think he had 3 manuscripts ready. She got a great agent, and Martin, St. Martin's Press, took her on. And so that was your first publishing contract. And then I think, what else was I going to say about that? This writing, you've got 3 series out right now. Well, the Charlie Davidson, this was your first one. That was the first one I read, which was a paranormal mystery series. Then you have also the Sunshine Bike Run mystery series that was next. What else? You've got all your books out here.
The Betwixt and the Between.
Okay.
And then I had a young adult trilogy that came out, and then I have another one that's indie as well, so a hybrid now, and it's called The Neverneath, but I don't have anything in print for that one, that's all.
Well, and she said these are free, so if anyone wants to pick one of those up and take with them and enjoy them. I laugh at her books. Her books are hilariously funny, and every line is funny. It's just like punch, punch, punch. And I thought, oh, I knew her at a professional level. I didn't know. We were serious about books and assessment and stuff like that.
But that's the thing, in real life, I'm not funny at all.
She really is. But, but it's really nice to see this. And I'd ask you once, well, how did you write so funny? I thought you were writing sign language books when I heard you.
Everybody thinks that,
Because she would have written those good, too. But anyway, she is hilariously funny, and today's presentation is entitled Laughing in the Face of Danger. So we're going to turn it over to you now.
Should I stand or sit?
You can sit. Be comfortable. Can you sit with the...
Am I okay? Okay.
Is it okay?
Okay. So, thank you. That made me sound awesome.
When you write in a closet, you just never know who's going to
True. So basically how I started writing, I did not know that I could write humor. I had no clue. So it's exactly what Jan said. I started writing seriously in 2002, but I was still working full time. There was at one point I had 4 jobs. And teaching and doing all kinds of stuff. And then and I thought, I'm just going to take this seriously. I'm going to try to. So I wrote my first manuscript. My first manuscript is what I read mostly, even to this day, historical romance. And I let a few people read it, because they were all very interested. They're like, what? You wrote a book? And so I let them, and everybody came back and they kept saying how funny it was. And I was like, what? It wasn't supposed to be funny. That might not be a good thing, And so I was like, wait, where is it funny? Where? And I knew that I had little scenes here and there. I was like, okay. So then I wrote my first young adult complete book. I wrote mostly young adult growing up, and that's the Dark Light series, and there's the bookmark for that. Because I forgot to bring any. And so I wrote that, and I let a few people again read it. And again, everybody kept saying how funny it was. And I thought, maybe I should try to capitalize on this. I should try to make my books funny. So then I started the first in the Charlie Davidson series, which is called First Grave on the Right. And it's about a female Grim Reaper who is a private investigator. Or maybe she's a female private investigator who's a Grim Reaper. I don't know which one would be better. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to really try to write something on this one and just, And so, but I also did a few things that kind of messed up. Don't mess with your process. If you have a process, just go with it and love it. I ask every writer on the planet, how do you write? Are you a plotter or a pantser? What do you do? All this stuff. And I just want to know what they're doing, and then I'll try something different, and it never works. It just doesn't work. It never works for me. I have a process. It is the way it is. So anyway, I was writing First Grave on the Right. Joined a critique group, and it kind of messed with how I normally do things. And I got to chapter 6, and I got stuck. And so it sat there for 2 years, just absolutely doing nothing. I was working full-time and teaching, and I thought, forget it. And then I thought, well, Romance Writers America, they used to have a contest every year called the Golden Heart. It was, for those who don't know, it was very prestigious in the field. So, like, if you even finaled in the Golden Heart, it got you a lot of attention, Well, I had been entering the Golden Heart for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years. I never even came close to finally. And so I thought, well, but your manuscript has to be finished. So I thought, okay, I'm going to enter it to force myself to finish the manuscript, right? So I entered it and forgot all about it. Still didn't finish it. 2 weeks before the deadline, I was like, oh, crap, I got to write a book. So fortunately, they only judged the first 50 pages of the Golden Heart. So that was, I had all copies. The rest of the book was, I'm not even kidding. It was, I wrote it in 2 weeks, which I've actually written faster than that, but finished it up. Then I thought I missed the deadline. And a friend of mine, I was on the phone with a friend, and she's like, did you get your entry in? I said, no, I missed the deadline. She said, no, you still have 2 more days. I said, well, I'd have to overnight it. I was so mad because I spent $50. It's $50 to enter that contest. I was so mad that I wasted that money. And she said, oh, no, if you enter it and you don't send it in, you're going to get in trouble. Now, looking back, what are they going to do? Seriously. But I freaked out. I was like, oh, my God. So I spent the next day getting it ready. And again, yes, I had to overnight it. Another $50. I was so mad. And I absolutely just forgot about it. I was just like, because I knew I wouldn't final. And then I'm with my client and in junior high, and we're doing state testing. You're not supposed to have your phone in there, but I have my phone. Anyway, my phone keeps vibrating, and it's a text from my husband saying that I finaled in a contest. And I was like, dude, I haven't entered any contest. I don't know what you're talking about. He said, oh, I was like, a golden something or other. I was like, what? I totally forgot it was that day. I completely blocked it from my mind. I knew. And I just absolutely freaked out, and I finaled. So I spent the next 2 months. It was very kind of a whirlwind time, polishing it, getting it ready, and I thought, okay, now agents are going to pay attention to me. So I sent it out to 7 of my dream agents. And here is kind of a thing about that says that humor resonates. Humor just resonates. So I sent it out, but my query letter, I had this first line of my query letter, and I thought, well, that can't be my first line because that's not professional. So I changed my first line, sent it out to these 7 agents, nothing. They didn't, like, 1 rejected me immediately, and then the other 6 never, I didn't even gotten anything from them. So I was like, well, fine, if this isn't going to work anyway, I'm putting my line back in. So I put my line back in, did 3 days worth of research, sent it out to 20 agents, and in 1 week I had 8 offers of representation. It was crazy, and it was a super stressful week, by the way. It was super stressful because agents are salespeople, and they, they're high pressure. And I had this one agent on the phone with me, and he had me on the phone for over an hour, and he kept saying, well, why wouldn't you sign with me right now? Why wouldn't you sign with me? And I'm like, well, first of all, you're annoying me. But it was just such a crazy time. I had another one who found out that I sent it to other agents, and she told me you're not supposed to do that, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But she was so upset when she offered that I had sent it out to other agents, because by that point I had 4 other offers. And she was so upset, she told me, and these were her exact words, that if she could, she would climb through the phone line and slit my throat.
Oh,
That's how upset she was that I had. And then she was so upset that I didn't sign with her. She still goes around to this day to conferences telling people that I told her yes and then I backed out. Like, so agents are people too, and they're weird. They're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. Some of them are crazy, and then some are just so nice. And it was really such a hard week. But anyway, I went with my agent. She is Alexander Machinist. She's at ICM New York right now. And we ended up meeting at the conference. So where was I going? Oh no, because I wanted to tell you about the line. This is not. So I ended up winning the Golden Heart, and it was, honest to God, it was like a Cinderella story. It was just crazy. And then my agent sent it out, and a week later we had 5 houses bidding. It was just amazing. It was such an amazing time, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. But the point of that whole story was my line in my query letter. So I had changed it. I made it all professional sounding and everything, and again, crickets. So I put my line back in. And my line was reflective of the book. And so it just worked. So then when people asked for the full, when agents asked for the full, they kind of knew what to expect. And so here's the line. I had to memorize it, but there is cursing, just so you know. It is, let's see. Female private investigator Charlie Davidson was born with 3 things: a smoking hot ass, a healthy respect for the male anatomy, and the rather odd job title of Grim Reaper. That's all it took.
Wow.
A week later, I had 8 offers. Like, it was crazy. And so just, if you write humor, just put it out there. Let people know. So anyway, back to this, Laughing in the Face of Danger. So there's my story, and one of my favorite quotes is by Joss Whedon, and it is, make it dark, make it grim, make it tough, but then, for the love of God, tell a joke. I love that, because that's just the way, I just think of it. Even in my darkest moments in these, especially the Charlie books, there's some pretty dark moments in those Charlie books. But I always have to tell a joke in there. And every once in a great while, I'll have somebody say, "That was nothing to joke about." Like, well, it was to me. Maybe you shouldn't read my books anymore. I will say that anybody can learn to write funny. And that's the thing that, like, when Charlie first started coming out, and I would go to conferences and everything, I felt like everybody would come up to me and just, like, look at me, like, expecting me to be the funny person. I was never the class clown. I always admired the class clown. That's the person I admired, because I'm like, how do you make people laugh? It just fascinated me. So I decided to really study it when I was writing Charlie Davidson. And you can learn to write funny. There are techniques that once you learn them, you internalize them, the more you use them, and then now I don't even think about it. So, just so you know, you can. I also recommend, so I'm going to recommend some books. Well, I would recommend some books, but they're not on here. I thought they were on my papers. Let me think. I think they're in here somewhere. But also, if you guys know Margie Lawson, so she has the Lawson Writers Academy, and Lisa Wells teaches a class on humor writing, and it's really good too. She actually touches on a lot of things that I don't touch on in this, so she does. It's just fantastic. The book that really, I think, taught me to write funny in the first place was by Scott Dikkers, and he has a whole series, and it's Dikkers, and the whole thing is just it's so good. It just teaches you the techniques of how to set up a joke, where the punchline should be. One of the things that I had to learn, and I really think that it shows if you do start reading Charlie Davidson, because there are 13 books in that series, and novellas and short stories, is that I think I learned as I went how to write funny better, if that makes sense. And so I would don't ever explain your joke. If your audience doesn't get it, that's just going to have to be on them. Don't ever explain it. And I feel at first that I was trying to explain jokes, then guess what? They're not funny anymore. It doesn't work that way. But there are some basic comic principles that I will teach you today. Let me make sure I don't want to go over the top. Okay. So here is a quote that I don't even know who said it, but it's awesome. Comedy appeals to the intellect, whereas drama appeals to emotion. So if you can combine both of those, you're doing a fantastic job. And comedy is all about the unexpected. The number one thing about comedy is the unexpected. It's what you don't expect that person to say or do or whatever. Misdirection is the key to comedy that works. Okay. There are no rules. So there's no rules in comedy. There are only key principles that work in various combinations. So here are some of the principles. One is a funny situation. And also, if you guys don't want to write any of this down, I will give this to somebody today, but also, also just email me. Oh yeah, you can make copies, or yeah, if you want to make copies, or you can email me. I'll just send them to whoever wants them. Okay,
Come in. No, come in. Come join us. Come.
Okay, so the first one is the funny situation, and that's where the situation itself is funny, so there's no dialogue or guidelines needed, i.e., for example, a woman's car breaks down. She is dressed as a hooker for a Halloween party and is asking, and is asking another motorist for help when the cop pulls up behind them. Okay. So that's a funny situation. Distinct characters. In comedy, each character should have a blind obsession. The obsession must be simple and clear. For example, Inspector Clouseau he's obsessed with being the perfect detective. Okay? So each character should be distinct and react distinctly to the same experience to maximize the conflict. So let's say a group of people are looking in horror at a dead body. When a woman in the back says, "I wonder where she got those shoes." So that, you know what I mean? So they're going to act distinct in any situation to that particular obsession. Absolutely. It is all yours. Dimension. Dimension comes from contradictions within the character. For example, Buffy kills vampires, yet she is in love with one. So that creates more dimensions inside that character. The next one is language. Nothing is sacred, and nobody taught me this better than Joss Whedon. I know he's in all kinds of trouble right now, but nothing is sacred, including the English language. Make up words and skew meaning as you go. Use it to create twists and freshen dialogue and exposition. An absolute master is Joss Whedon again. And I'm going to say something about this is, I think that one of the things is, when I was trying to get published, I was trying to figure out what do agents want, what do publishers want, and everybody keeps saying they want something fresh, write fresh. Do you guys get that? That's all you ever hear is fresh, fresh, fresh. I'm like, what is fresh? What do you mean? I don't understand. And when First Grave sold, everybody kept saying how fresh it was, and I think all it was the comedy. I think it was just throwing that comedy in there. And again, at this time, so this was back in 2009, paranormal romance was huge, but it was almost all, I would say 90% of it was like dark or serious, dramatic paranormal romance. It wasn't funny. And so I got in at a time, I mean, there was some, but not a whole lot. So I feel like I squeezed in, I slid in right under that thing when paranormal romance started tanking, because it was funny, and I think that's what got people's attention. And comedy adds freshness to your voice. It just will. It's almost impossible for it not to. I know the lights are awesome. So, speaking of language, in this one scene, Buffy says, "You know me, not much with the damseling." So that's not a real word, but it works because Joss Whedon is just a master of making it. If you want fresh dialogue, even to this day. Watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's tons of it. It's just amazing how creative he was with language. I learned so much from that series, and Angel and Firefly, different things that he did. Another one was Professor Walsh says, "We thought you were a myth." And Buffy says, "Well, you were a myth taken." I think that's so cute. That's what he does, though. He just plays with the language so much. And like, there was another one that is one of my favorites. It says, I think Giles says something like, "That's not even the point." And she's like, "It's entirely pointy." You know, it's just like little things like that. He would just take and twist those words. It's just so cute. The next one is exaggeration. And that is where you exaggerate a trait or situation for humor. So, for example, a woman standing in line at the airport has taken cold medicine. She falls asleep standing up and leans on the person in front of her. So again, that's a situation, but it's taken that, it's so exaggerated. I mean, that really didn't happen, I don't think. I don't know. Now, I did see the woman on if you guys saw the woman on the airplane who fell asleep, and she did not know the man next to her, and she fell all the way down till her face was in his crotch. Did you guys see that? That is a funny situation, because you got and that was real. That really happened. And the man, somebody's filming it, and that man is just like, "What do I do?" It's just so funny. The next one is brevity. Short sentences tend to work best in comedy. And again, that's something I had to learn. Stop where it's funny. Stop. Don't add anymore. Just stop right there. That took some learning, and it took some kind of some trust on my part to trust that my readers were just going to get it, you know. And if they don't, they don't. It's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world if they don't get one of your jokes in the 1,000 that you have in the book. The next one is inversion. That is where you flip the idea backwards. For example, a group of elderly women rob a liquor store, traumatizing the thuggish-looking clerk. So that's where you just flip everything. Those are fun. Anything with a group of elderly women are just, it's going to be fun. It just is. You know it is. The next one is trivialization. So that is where you get humor by trivializing the exalted. So Buffy slays vampire and is upset when she breaks a nail, okay? Or exalting the trivial. So a man structures his whole life around his bowel movements, and yes, there's a book about that. So, yes, so it's one of the, yes, exactly.
But it exists.
The next one is impersonation, yes. Humor through characters pretending to be somebody else, and that would be like if you've seen While You Were Sleeping, in that movie, she kind of accidentally gets wrangled into, she is pretending to be this guy in a coma, his fiance, and his family comes in, and she's not his fiance, but it really wasn't her fault that they think that, and then the family just falls in love with her, and they invite her to Christmas, and then of course the guy's going to wake up, and yeah, it was a very cute movie. The next one is repetition. Repeat something until it becomes completely absurd. And when I do, sometimes I do this and I have a PowerPoint, and it's on there, it's just mom, 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 mom. Have you ever had your kids do that? Because mine has done it. So I remember one time we're in the car, and my son, Jared, my eldest son, is deaf, and he's in the back seat, and we're in rush hour traffic in Albuquerque, okay? And I'm driving, and he keeps saying, "Mom, cinnamon. Cinnamon, cinnamon." I'm like, "What? Okay, what about cinnamon?" "Mom, cinnamon, cinnamon." And this went on for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "Dude, what about cinnamon?" And so then at that point, he's just laughing because I'm just getting so frustrated with him. And finally, my younger son says, "Mom, there's cinnamon candy in your door. He wants a piece." I'm like, "Why did you just say cinnamon candy in the door?" Oh my God. And another time, and this one is funny because in ASL, the sign for finger spell and the sign for spell is the same word, okay? So he kept telling me, well, that didn't even matter at that point, but he kept telling me, Jared kept telling me, spell, spell. he needed me to spell the word spell. And I was just getting, again, rush hour traffic, why he does this in Albuquerque? And I'm like, spell what? He's like, Mom, spell. I'm like, spell what? I understand, but spell what? Spell. What do you want me to spell? Miss Williams. Yes, exactly. And again, my son Casey, God bless him, he's like, Mom, he wants you to spell the word spell. I'm like, oh. Think of that, okay? I'm driving, okay? Yes, exactly. So again, just repeating the same thing until it becomes ridiculous, and then repeat it again until I don't know why, it just becomes funny. The next one is parody. So that is where you show the absurdity of certain genres. So that would be like the movie Airplane, Blazing Saddles, Scary Movie, and Vampires Suck. So that's just we know what parody is. The next one is double entendre. So that is humor through double meaning. So for example, a character one thinks they are talking about one thing, and the other character thinks they're talking about something else. So for example, a man in the bathroom stall overhears two men at the urinals talking about how big and powerful it is. Unbeknownst to him, they are looking at a poster of a Dodge truck. Do you guys remember that commercial? That's what that is. Yes. Double entendre. Okay. Riffing or a running joke is where you have a continuous gag line or theme throughout the work. There was one Charlie book, I don't know why I thought this was so funny. Somebody, so Betty Williamson is, if you guys know Jack Williamson, he's a science fiction writer, okay? So Betty is his niece. And she is an amazing writer. Oh my God. But she doesn't write books. I keep telling her, write a book, because she's amazing. But she has a column, like in the newspaper and stuff. Anyway, she's so funny. And she put this thing on Facebook. She calls her dog, it's like a dog of questionable worth or something like that. And I remember thinking that was just so funny. And so in one of the Charlie books, I have, every time somebody says something against Charlie, she says, why? Is it because of my questionable morals? And she says that through the whole book. Like she says it like 4 or 5 times. And another one was, she's sitting, in the first book, her Jeep, she names everything. And her Jeep is named Misery. And she says, I sat there sitting in misery. The Jeep, not the emotion, And she says that like 3 times in the first book. So again, just like running a continuous gag. The next one is role reversal, and that's reversing roles for humor. For example, a man is confused about the status of a relationship and calls his male buddy for feedback in the same manner a woman would call another woman. So those are always fun, anytime you turn gender on its heels. Things to keep in mind. So those are just some of the basic principles of comedy, and there's so many more. Again, I highly recommend anything by Scott Dickers. Things to keep in mind. A good joke is the setup, not the punchline. So if you set it up appropriately, the punchline is going to hit hard. It's going to be awesome. But that's not always. It's more the setup is where most of your focus should be. Make the punch word the last line of the sentence. And again, this is where I had to really rein myself in, because I kept trying to explain things where I would continue on, and I finally realized it's so much funnier. Just stop. Stop right there. Say, that's the last line, that's the punchline, stop. Comedy is all about the unexpected, like I said. Whatever the audience expects, do the opposite. This is something that I learned from an interview with Joss Whedon. And I don't just use that in comedy, I use that in drama. Donald Moss is really big about this too. Whatever your audience expects, do the exact opposite. So the guy walks into the room and he says, I know you killed your fiance or whatever. And the audience is expecting her to go, no, I didn't, or, just freak out or anything. And instead she starts laughing. So you want to, even in drama, just do the exact opposite, and that creates freshness in your writing. It's another way to create freshness. And remember, humor is an excellent way to create a bond between your character and your reader. So another workshop that I do is on the principles what goes into your opening and how to instantly create that bond between your character and your reader. And humor is one of them. It creates, it makes your reader root for your character, unless the humor is at the expense of someone else. Obviously, you want it to be, almost all humor should be
Effacing.
self-effacing, yes, self-deprecating, yes. And know when to stop again. This is something I had to learn. I made a lot of mistakes. Never explain your joke, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is a quote by Irma Bonbeck. There is a thin line that separates laughter and pain, comedy and tragedy, humor and hurt. And I do a lot of that in my books where, we're at the darkest point in the book and we're at the point where people will write me, they're like, this made me cry and then you had me laughing. My goal in life, when I started writing seriously, was to make somebody laugh and cry at the same time. I thought, if you can do that, then you're good. You're good at what you do, you know what I mean? And that, it happened. It happened for me. People will tell me that all the time. So I'm like, that's my fist pump moment. Okay, putting comedy to work for you. So this is all great, but how is that going to help you freshen your prose? We've already talked about that. Sometimes sorry, I'm going through this. I have jokes that I put up on that thing. Most laughter, I will say also that most laughter is the result of a negative emotion. Comedy is tragedy happening to someone else. And it's sad, but it's very true. You see somebody else slip on a banana peel. It's not you.
Lucy, the series.
Lucy, exactly. It's tragedy happening to Lucy. Yeah. Let's see. And this is such a big one. And I knew this instinctively. Thank God in heaven. I read this later, and I just remember thinking, yes, it's so true. So Steve Carell from The Office, I saw an interview with him, and he said, funny people should never know they're funny. You should never have your character laugh at her own joke. It's no longer funny if they do. So even though, Charlie knows that she's being sarcastic. I'm not saying that, but she also doesn't say something and then laugh at it. It would ruin it. It's not how it works. So I thought that was so good. Let's see. And there are different ways of practices. You can do all of these things, take them in practice. If you do happen to take Lisa Will's class, you do have homework, and she'll have you practice for principles. And she has some really, really good ones. Things that I had never even thought of. I was like, it was amazing. Here we go. These are my sources. Okay. Let's see. And a lot of these are online. So again, just email me and I'll send this to you. There's a comedian, Lee Jeshua. She teaches 8 types of jokes. There are 12 funny techniques by Dave Fox. Scott Dicker's online. If you don't want to get his book, he has an article called 11 Funny Filters. So there are just different things online that you can obviously look up. The advantage of practicing is that it becomes more internalized, so you don't have to think about it next time. Because when I was writing first grade, I'm going to say, I feel like with first grade, which is the book that sold, which got me a 6-figure 3-book deal, I'm not complaining, but I really feel like I tried too hard. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know what I was doing yet, really, and so I feel like I tried too hard a little bit in that first book. And I think as the books go, it becomes a little more natural. I don't know. Let's see. There are 2 types of people in the world. Those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. So next, get it? See, that's a joke. See, when I put it up and you read it, it's funny. But when I say it, it's not. All right, I'm going to give you one principle that you probably do already, you don't even know it, and it can easily be put into practice, and it's the rule of 3. And this is by far the easiest learn and to put into easiest to learn and to put into use. And that is, a funny line is sometimes said to be like a train wreck. You know where your train of thought has been. You think you know where it's going, but then you're surprised when it goes off track. So the surprise or twist helps build the tension to create and magnify the humor. So an example of this is just from a text that I sent my sister. So my sister had surgery a while back, and I was texting her, and I could tell she was really groggy. So I asked her, I said, can I bring you anything? Coffee, Diet Coke, methamphetamine? So it's that last one. So that's the rule of three. It's where the last one is the funny one. It goes completely against the whatever you're thinking. It's simple, it's tried and true. A lot of it is about rhythm, so the rhythm of your prose as well. And it creates an expectation, which is the setup, and then hits with the humor. So there's a voicemail greeting. I got this offline. I can't remember where I got it. It was so funny. Sorry, I can't personally answer the phone. I'm either motivating thousands of people, appearing on the Oprah show, or taking a nap. Please leave a message, and I'll return your call when I wake up. So that's where the taking a nap, you could end there, but then he said, please leave a message, and I'll return your call when I wake up. So that's made it even funnier. So, there is a thing that when you talk about hyperbole, that's highly recommended. If you look it up online, there's a blog. It used to, I don't know, I guess it's still out. A blog called Hyperbole and a Half. You guys know that one, okay? The Kenny Loggins Ruined Christmas one. Yes. That is the funniest thing. I laughed so hard I was crying. That is the funniest thing I've ever read. She just takes this one idea and just keeps it going and keeps it going and keeps it going. And she makes these ridiculous little drawings that are so funny. I highly recommend if you want to. That's another, especially if you want to study comedy, that is a good place to look.
What's it called again?
Hyperbole and a Half. And it's the one I'm talking about, it's actually, I think way back in 2010, called The Year Kenny Loggins Ruined Christmas. This is so funny. Okay. Sadly, here's the sad part. Here's the bummer part. Comedy is very much like romance or science fiction. Or pretty much any speculative fiction, in that it is maligned. It's not taken as seriously as, the more serious books. As its dramatic counterpart, even though it is harder to master. That being said, comedy makes our characters instantly relatable and likable, especially, again, if it's self-deprecating comedy. We like people who can laugh at themselves. It lets our readers know your character is confident. Only a confident heroine can laugh at herself, or hero. The inability to laugh at oneself is actually a sign of insecurity. We don't want to read about insecure characters unless that's the point of your story. Comedy can also reveal your character's wound, and I do this quite often, if she uses humor to deflect or as a defense mechanism. It's an excellent tool to show how deep that wound goes. I do that a lot with Charlie. So my Charlie Davidson series, she uses comedy. She didn't want to talk about the serious stuff. So she's constantly cracking jokes because she doesn't want to go there, and so she deflects by doing that. And comedy is fresh again, unless it's stale. Don't write stale comedy. Again, yeah, people always talk about fresh choice. So that is that. And I will say I wanted to. Somebody invited me to this book festival. Was it you? Did you write? Yes. And I had a thing going on. Well, the thing has been canceled. So hopefully I can at least come and and hang out and see everybody, because I would love to do that.
If you want to do more, call me.
Oh, yeah, I was going to go to Nink, and it's in Florida, and it's just such a, it's not a good time. Not a good time to be traveling to Florida right now. So,
we would love to have you.
Okay.
Well, if you want a table, if you want, we will make room.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I will, let's email me and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, sounds good.
Don't let me forget. And are there any questions?
What is your current book?
My current book that I'm working on is the 3rd in the Sunshine Vikram series. And then I'm also doing the 4th in the Betwixt and Between series. So that was turned out interesting because it's my first indie project. And how that one got started was there was a group of authors who got together and decided they were going to make paranormal women's fiction a theme. Okay? It was out there, but it wasn't called that. And it wasn't a thing yet. So these 12 authors got together, and then they invited me, so we're called the Fab 13. And these are all indie authors. I think I'm the, no, I think 2 of them were hybrids as well. But I had never put out an indie book, so I was like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, oh, don't worry, we'll help you, don't worry, we'll get through this. And it was quite the learning curve to put out my first indie book, but I did it. And it was amazing, and so now I can do it all. And I'm finally like, okay, I can do this. I'm good. And but these women are amazing marketers. Like, they're just incredible, and because they're indie, and I would say probably 6 of the 12 make over $1 million a year.
Wow.
Every year. And so they're just fantastic at marketing. And so it's been such an experience to learn from them and to learn how to do all that stuff. And, well, for example, they started a Paranormal Women's Facebook group. And I think within 2 weeks we had 10,000 people in that group. They're just amazing. These women are just crazy. And so basically it's just paranormal with some romance, with an older heroine, is all it is, really. And it's paranormal women's fiction, and it's becoming a real genre on Amazon. So we're excited. We got that going.
Has your ASL training and experience with your son influenced your writing in any way?
I will say that I do quite often have deaf characters in my books. And because I know so much about the culture, I know how to not offend anybody. Otherwise, that's always the big thing, writing different cultures. You're almost inevitably
it's almost a secret culture.
Yes.
Because they can't.
Right. And it's so I do, and I have deaf characters in a few of my books. So, and also it's just fun trying to put sign language into prose. Into the written word. So that's fun. I will say that just learning, just because I got my degree in it, and just learning about culture in general, and just, how to approach culture, and it's really helped my writing in those kinds of terms, and why this might be offensive when, like, a regular hearing person, whatever, they'd be, well, why is that offensive? Well, because it is. You're stealing from their culture, that sort of thing. So I love that. I'm very grateful that I was able to get my degree in it and learn so much. Yeah.
Could you talk about your sort of regular writing schedule versus like a deadline's coming?
Sure. So we were actually talking about this earlier. So I put the pro in procrastination. I'm amazing at it, if you need any tips. And I am behind, I am late with every book. I'm that person, my editors know I'm just late with every book. And some writers look at me and they're like, you make the rest of us look bad. I'm like, hey, I make me look bad, okay? Just, it's okay. So what I started doing, and the pandemic messed me up. Like, I thought, well, this isn't a big change for me. I'm at home writing all day anyway. But it really kind of messed me up in that, I don't know why, but it just did. Mm-hmm. And so I was having a really hard time finishing Chardonnay, and then I had the third in the Betwixt series due. And I could not get them written, and I was having a hard time. And I was talking to a friend of mine who is also a writing coach. She writes fantasy romance, Jeffy Kennedy. And she's amazing, and she's so productive, so prolific. Like, she's so disciplined. And I'm like, how do you even do that? I don't understand. And so we were talking about it, and we decided that we write on Zoom every day. So we've been doing it now for over a year. So every morning at 9, we get on Zoom, and we do 3 one-hour sprints.
You'll just have the computer open.
Have the computer open, we mute ourselves, we write for an hour, and then we come back and we say how we did, and that sort of thing. And it's awesome because you have that, you're accountable, that person is right there, you know. And at first she was like, oh, I guess we could try something like this. And she went really, and now we love it. She loves it too, you know. It's like, she's like, she said, I don't think I'm more productive, because she was productive anyway, but she said, it's just funner. Is that a word?
Do you critique it together? When you finish your hour, do you kind of share a little bit of what you
We
did?
don't until later. So I hate getting books in chunks, especially her books, because they're really good, and I don't want them in chunks. I want the whole thing. So I beta read her book once it's done, and then she'll beta read mine too. Now we will talk about things if we're having a problem or a situation, and the cool thing about her beta reading is that she's read the first 2 of these books, so I'm working on the 3rd one right now, so I can ask her questions. Like, what if Quentin did this, or what if, you know, whatever. And so it's really nice. So that's my normal day. Now, when deadlines are approaching, like they are, or they whoosh past, you know, they make that whooshy sound. That is when I have to write a lot more. So we still do our 3 hours, and then I'll have lunch, and then I come back and write till, I start out writing till 8 or 9 at night, and then it gets closer and closer, and I ended up writing till 2 or 3 in the morning, and then, yeah. I've written, I'm so bad. I don't know what my problem is. And I seriously have ADHD, so I like using that as an excuse. But I've had to write books. I wrote the 8th book in the Charlie series in 7 days.
Wow.
What?
The whole thing. It was it was the shortest book in the whole, I think it was 83,000 words. So it was shorter than that. It was horrible. It was horrible. I was writing 22 hours a day. And for 7 days. I don't recommend it. It was horrible. It's way too much stress. And then, but I keep doing that. I keep doing it. I just keep procrastinating. I'm an outliner. I'm a plotter. Like, my outlines are crazy long. They're like 60 pages long. And I just outline like crazy until, you know, and I keep saying, no, I have to go back to my outline. And so, yeah, the Charlie books, there's many of them. I think I wrote 9th grade in 9 days. This is what's funny. 9th grade was 9 days, and 11th grade was 11 days. It just turned out that way. But again, I don't recommend, and I'm trying to not do that anymore. That's the whole point of writing every day with Jeffy. I'm trying to not do that anymore. And yet, this 3rd book, I'm going to end up having to do. And I'm also the person, openings are hard for me. You know, it's either openings or the beginnings or endings. For me, it's the opening. And if I don't nail that opening, I cannot go further. I have to have that opening nailed. And this is the problem with the 3rd book. I've been working on this opening for like 6 weeks. Just keep redoing it. I've thrown out probably 20, 25,000 words. Wow. Go back and do it again. And it just, and all of a sudden yesterday I'm driving to Lubbock, because I stayed in a, Chuck said I didn't want to get up at 5:30. I'm kind of lazy. So I drove to Lubbock to stay in a hotel room, and a new opening came to me, so I'm going to do it again.
Should come back more.
This is so much better, though. It's just so, it's going to be worth it, I swear. So I'm going to spend this weekend rewriting my opening again.
When's that one due?
Oh, it was due like 2 months ago. It was due like 2 months ago, but it didn't come out till like next June. So I look at that release date, I'm like, oh, I have time. And my editor's like, so where are we? I'm like, oh, we're doing great.
There's all the copies they threw away. That makes
That
sense.
point of then what you wrote.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, oh yeah, I've written like 15,000 words on it. She doesn't know I've thrown out 25 of them.
What about your writing environment? Do you have your own room with a window here?
I do. I actually, every once in a while, we don't have a Starbucks in Morales for that town, but we have a Sweetwater's, and I'll go write. I like to write at like coffee places every once in a while. I just like shake things up a little bit. But normally, yes, I have an office, and have a recliner. I sit in my recliner on my laptop, and that's how I can write for. I do fall asleep every once in a while. It's a really, really comfortable recliner. It's probably a bad thing. But that's what I do.
about your editor? How much does the person who is your editor get involved in the story and change and all that kind of stuff?
Right, so I will say with the Charlie books, so I had the same editor for all of them except for the last one. So Jennifer Enderlin at St. Martin's Press is my editor. She is now the president of St. Martin's Press, so she doesn't do a lot of editing anymore. So she still buys my books, but I have a new editor, Alexander Seeholzer, and so Jennifer was really light-handed. She wouldn't have a whole lot. There was only one book that Jennifer, so I turned in the third book, and this is before the first book even came out. I turned in the third book, and she emails me, and she says, "Can I call you?" And I'm like, oh crap, this is gonna be bad. I'm like, sure. So she calls me, and she says, well, she said, "I love the book." She said, "But we're going along, and you say who the bad guy is, and we're going along, and he's still the bad guy, and we get to the end, and he's the bad guy." I'm like, well, yeah, I told you he's the bad guy. And she said, "Darynda, you write mystery. He can't be the bad guy." And I was like, I write mystery? Nobody told me I write mystery. As God is, I had no idea I wrote mystery. I had no clue. I thought I wrote paranormal romance or something. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I had to change that whole book. That was the one book that, changing that one thread, you're like, oh, it's just the one thread. Oh, changed everything. It took me like 2 months to rewrite that book. It takes longer to rewrite than to write.
Oh, yeah.
And, but I will say my new editor, she is, I would say she's quite a bit, I don't even want to say heavy-handed, it's not the right word, but she's much more involved. And so A Bad Day for Sunshine came out, was my longest book at the time. It was 115,000 words. And I was like, is that okay? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. So then A Good Day for Chardonnay came out, and it was like 125,000 words. And she said, let's try to keep it about the same. So she went through that whole book. She spent 2 months editing that book. She went through the whole thing, and she cut 10,000 words for me. Because I was like, I can't do, what? I don't cut words. How do I do that? And there were a couple of times I was like, that's the funniest joke in the whole book. You know, she cut to me a lot of the humorous parts. So I was really worried about it. And I really think with Chardonnay, I turned in a hot mess, and she just fixed it. It was just better. But then she wanted me to add some more stuff in, so I ended up adding like 5,000 words back in. And I turned it in. I said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to cut more. I don't know what to say. And she said, nope, it's perfect. So she let me keep it. So that one's 120,000 words. So that's the most that anybody's ever really went through my book. And
You really find it helpful, though, to have.
oh, yeah. I want an editor.
Yeah.
So this is my story with, so Jennifer edited 1 through 12 of the Charlie Dixon books. So I turned in, so if 13 came along, she became the president, she wasn't editing. So she handed me to another editor.
And you got nervous.
I did get nervous, but this editor did nothing. She read the book and told me how great it was. I appreciate that. I really do. But I know as well as anybody else, I do not write a perfect book.
No.
Absolutely not. And she had no editing for me at all.
And you took a deep breath and you go, oh my God.
Yeah. And it came out, and of course, my readers loved it. It still got really good reviews and everything, but I was really worried because I was like, no, that's not how this works. So my agent, who actually did not like this editor, went to my original editor, who again is still pretty much in charge of me there. She buys my books and everything. And my agent told her, she said, no, Darynda wants to be edited. She wants somebody who's really going to edit her, not somebody who's going to pat her on the back. It doesn't work that way. And so, yes, I don't want a pat on the back.
Yeah.
I want to be edited.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that my writing can suck at times. You know, we have bad days. So, yeah.
I remember once you said an editor sent your manuscript back, and there were so many red lines and red marks and on it, it could have been an F paper. And I laughed, well, that's good, because this critique group I'm a part of, everything's red lines.
Exactly. And that was actually probably my copy editor. Because we used to get, printed copy edits, and we don't do that anymore. But that was
And you look at it and you go,
It's just
oh my God.
oh my God. It's just like, holy cow, okay, that's a lot, but that's okay, I got through it, it's all good.
So from a humor writing standpoint and editing standpoint, do you find that kind of editing for humor is any different from anything else, or like does there need to be that kind of, I mean, after 12 books, that
Right.
editor knows your humor.
Right. The only thing is that every once in a while, my editor will say, I don't get this joke,
Yeah.
you know, or, and then I have to weigh, what I do is I ask other people, I'm like,
So it's like a reference that maybe she doesn't get or
yes,
something?
yes, yeah. And I will say, in my indie journey, I had hired an editor. Don't hire your friends. She was a very good friend of mine, and it turned out very badly because what she would do, she did. So first of all, this book, I had to upload this book in like 5 days. Like that's how, again, procrastinated. She went through the book. I told her, I said, I just need a proofread, just a quick proofread. That's all I need. No line edits, nothing. Just a quick proofread. The book is fine. She went through and changed the whole book. She would take out my punchlines and put in her own punchlines. And I'm like, dude, you don't change my humor. I've got the humor down. And it turned out to be a very bad experience. I had an absolute, 4 meltdowns because even after I asked her, please don't do that. Don't do that. She kept doing it. She said, well, I just thought mine was a little funnier. No, it's not. And in fact, I was like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? And I sent a chapter to Jeffy, who had already read the book, and she said, Darynda, that book was awesome. She's taken your words, and which are sparkling and crisp and funny, and made it blah. She's toned it down. It's not even funny anymore. And I'm like, thank you. I just needed to know that. And it turned out it was such a horrible experience. So, and what I ended up doing was sending it to another editor. She was another horrible experience for another reason. And I had to upload this absolute pile of crap. I mean, quite frankly, it was just absolute crap. And there were grammar errors, there were all kinds of stuff, there were lines repeated, and I got dinged on it. Some of even my most rabid followers would, there were a few that gave me like a 3 or a 4, because they're like, the book is still good, but there's grammar mistakes, there's crap all over the place. So what I did is, because you have to upload it 4 days before. So I uploaded it, and then the minute it came out, I uploaded the new version, because then I had a professional, which these were all professional editors. I don't know. I had another one edit it for me, who I highly recommend. It's called Pico House. She's in Hawaii, and so again, the minute it came out, I uploaded the new version, but people didn't know that. Not everybody got the word, and so yeah.
Are you still friends?
Yeah, that's what I
We are. What was crazy is that, I told her just to stop. She got to chapter 12. I said, just stop, because you're continuing to do this. Just stop. And she's like, oh, okay. I mean, it hurt her feelings and everything. And she sent me a bill for $850.
Oh my.
$850. Yeah. I was like, okay. So of course, and she said, and this is only half of what I would have charged you. What? Okay.
So you're still friends?
We are still, it's taken a while, but the thing is, we're part of a very close-knit writing group called the L&Ls, and we are eventually going to we do a writer's retreat every year together, and so, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. I don't know.
Just don't hire for it.
Right, exactly.
Audiobooks. Do you like audiobooks?
And so here's the cool. So everything I have is an audio, except for that one other indie series. But betwixt in between, they weren't in audio at first. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this myself. I'm not going to read it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not that. But I'm going to hire the person and go through.
ACA.
Yes, and do the whole thing. Well, what happened was my agent actually wrote me and she said, are you interested in selling the audio rights? Because I've had some interest. And she said, I know this is your indie project. I don't want to interfere. And I'm like, no, please, interfere. So we actually sold the audio rights for my indie series to Tantor. So, yeah, for some very nice money. So I'm like, really? They're going to pay me that just for audio? Okay. So I was very happy about that. So yes, they're all in audio. The Sunshine Victim, Charlie, and my young adult series are all narrated by Lorelei King. She's amazing. I don't know if anybody knows. She does Patricia Briggs. She does Stephanie Plum, Janet Ivanovich's Stephanie Plum series. Anyway, she's amazing. And when they told me that they got her, they were like, "Is that okay? Is Lorelei King okay?" I'm like, yes, she is fine. And I actually have gotten more listeners because of her, because people will they'll listen to anything she reads.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's actually gotten me a lot of readers.
Yeah, having a really good
Yes,
narrator.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's done a lot.
Absolutely. And what's crazy is that the narrator that Tantor got really sounds like her in a way. I was surprised. Like, she's really, really good. I'm like, because you never know.
Yeah.
The narrator can make or break an audiobook.
That's really
and,
true.
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate. Again.
One thing I have noticed about audiobooks too is somehow the humor, it gets a little more of a punch in audio.
It
Like,
does,
sometimes
yeah.
you can kind of skim over a joke when you're reading,
Mhm.
but it really comes to the fore. in
Especially with
audiobook.
Lorelei. She's so good at comedy. That's why they wanted her, because she's so good. So, yeah. Yes?
I just want to get you to tell the group some advice that you have for us, where some of us are more experienced writers, some of us are brand new, some of us are just writing our very first books. What advice do you have?
Oh, gosh. You know what? And you always ask that. I'm like, I don't know. I
You
just
lucky?
feel like I just stumbled upon everything. Like, I mean, I wrote. I've been writing since I was a kid. To me, just you never stop learning. I still take classes. I take classes all the time, online classes all the time. I love going and taking classes, but now we don't do that as much anymore. But just never stop learning. And what's weird, what I have found, that writing gets harder as you go. Because when you write your first book and you don't know anything, and so it's so easy, and you're just like writing, and you're all happy, and this is so fun. And then you learn, and you learn, and you learn, and you're like, well, that sentence sucked. Well, that was sucked. Oh, I got to throw out those 5,000 words. It's like it's gotten harder. And so I feel like if it's not getting harder, maybe you're not learning. I don't know. I don't want to even say that. That's stupid to even say. No, just keep learning and just keep doing your thing and finish the book. Obviously, finish the book, then write the next one. Finish it, then write the next one. So I'm really bad about this, and I know people who do this a lot, and I did this for many, many years. I would start a book, and then something shiny and new would come along. And I would start that book, I put that one aside, and then something shiny and new would come along. So this is what I do now, because I have shiny new ideas every other day. And I'm sure most of us do. And so what I do is I just make all the notes I can about it, and then in the file on my computer now. Used to it was on napkins and everything else, and make all the notes I can, and then I put it aside. And once I make those notes, I can stop thinking about it. It's like it's there. It's not going anywhere. I can move on with my life, and then I can get back to my what's due. The whole deadline thing. This whole deadline thing doesn't really work for me, but that's okay. I will say that I am really bad about finishing, but I have 25 books out, so clearly I can do it. But I am really bad, and so I have learned that if I don't with my indie stuff, if I don't put a pre-order up, I'll never finish it. It just won't get done because other projects come in and, and so without those absolute deadlines, I just won't finish anything ever.
At least you learned how to manage yourself.
Yeah, well, getting there. Still learning, but getting there.
Changing yourself, you change yourself.
Yes. And I will say writing with Jeffy every day is just really, if you have like a friend or a group of friends, you could just write every day online. It's just so fun. I don't know why, it just makes such a difference. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it makes a difference if you have somebody you're writing with.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who wrote her doctorate, and she said it was the loneliest experience. So having this coach, I think it makes her feel so isolated and so alone.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And having her, because it's just her and her husband. His kids live somewhere, she never had kids. His kids live in Colorado, I think. And so, her life and my life, they're so different. Like, I'm constantly interrupted. And it's made me realize how far behind that puts me, because I'm just constantly, or the dogs, or this, and also my sister, who is my best friend, she works for me full time, and so I sit in my little recliner, and her desk is right there, and she's constantly, did you write so-and-so? Do I need to send books to this person? Because she does, she does all that stuff, and it's just this constant interruption, and it completely messes up your flow. And watching Jeffy, because Jeffy will get, in those 3 hours, almost every single day, she gets 3,000 words. She gets 1,000 words an hour, every single day. That's her goal, and that's what she does. And when she hits 3,000 words, even if she does it, we're in the 3rd hour and she does it 20 minutes, she stops. She knows her threshold. She said, if I go over 3,000 words, the next day I'm tired. And I refuse to do it. It messes up her productivity. So she stops, and she starts doing business.
She's a coach. That's why she knows how to do it.
Yes, she's amazing. I'm so opposite her. It's just, and also she's a pantser. And so I don't understand her brain, and she doesn't understand my brain. It's very clear, because she'll be like, you're still on your outline, shut up, Jeffy, don't mess. Don't mess with my process, I've learned this, so, she can just start writing. She'll start, I think I'm going to start this new book today. 3 hours later, she says 3,000 words. I cannot. That is so far beyond me. I can't do that. So brains really do work differently. And so, especially if you do write with somebody, just be aware of that. Just be aware. Does anybody co-write with somebody else?
I have.
Have you? See, I think that'd be so hard. I've had people ask me, and I'm just afraid to
We
do
were
it.
just really,
There you go, in sync.
it was really in sync.
Nice.
It was really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice pacing.
Very cool. Very cool. I've had people ask me, and I've been afraid to do it.
It depends, I think, on how long you've known the person, what you know about them.
Right.
And this person I've known for 40 years, so
Okay,
we
there you go.
really kind of know each other.
Yeah.
Well, I'm writing with a friend too on one, but I told myself, I don't care about this book, that's why I can write.
That's the thing, I feel like you have to give up control.
Well, I think you also have to create, this is what you're going to do, and this is what I'm
Yes.
going to do.
Have those clear lines.
Clear
of-
boundaries
yes,
about
yes.
what each person's going to do,
Yes.
and that way you can collaborate.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yes, take books. Nobody's taking the hardcovers. You can take the hardcovers, it's okay. I get 20 free, so it's all good.
No, I'll download your audiobooks.
Oh, good. Yes, oh, thank you, yes. And Lorelei King is just amazing.
This isn't my genre, but I'm going to check it out.
So, everything I write is paranormal except for Sunshine Brick Room. That's straight mystery. And I knew they were a mystery from day one, so it's good. So, we are good. So, A Bad Day for Sunshine is the first one in that one. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that.
Absolutely. Please do. And again, I was saying that A Good Day for Chardonnay isn't actually out in paperback, so that's actually the UK edition, the paperback. So yeah, if you prefer paperbacks. I am getting to the age where I have a hard time holding hardcovers. They hurt my hands, so I do.
And how can we get your
Yeah.
notes today?
Oh, yes. And again, is there a place to make copies, or?
I can make copies, well,
Can we put them up on our website maybe? We'll put we've got a video going and we can just do a link
Oh,
to
sure,
that. So if you want to
absolutely.
email
So you can have that.
Kim or Jan or me
Yes.
or all of them.
I'll just email them.
yeah, that sounds good.
You can download those in a PDF.
Well, if she emails it to me.
Yeah, I'll just email it.
I'll just
Okay,
post it.
I'll take those.
Yeah. Absolutely. My notes. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And there's some more books. Don't make me take any back. There's bookmarks.
Just going off what she was just talking about and how our different brains work and our different processes work and everything. Next month is gonna be, you know Becca Syme from the Right Better Faster courses?
Oh, yes.
Okay, she's gonna be presenting that, and that is all based on the Clifton Strengths assessment, and so like personality tests and learning your strengths and everything, and then how your strengths and how your creative process work, and learning that about yourself, so capitalize on that. So that is what we're going to be doing next month.
And it's a Zoom meeting.
It is a Zoom meeting because she is in Montana or Wyoming or one of those old western ones again. And Becca Syme.
And it's on our website.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we will be meeting in the Garden Arts Center.
It's YA Science Fiction Fantasy. It's been 20 years.
So you
of
can
Hamilton
participate
Science
through
Fiction
Zoom or you can join us there.
20 years of his real life.
And I forgot to mention when I was talking about the book festival that Kim is doing a humor and writing workshop. Make sure you check it out. Yes, she's got lots of good things. Keith West is the moderator for our sci-fi panel, which I'm on, so.
I know, yeah. That's cool. There's a lot of different.